is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank Almighty! We are free at
Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
And welcome to Alan Autry No Retreat. I'm old Alan Autry, and as always, honored, humbled, and as they say in the Deep South, tickled to death to have you with us today. Big Tuesday. Had a big storm come through Fresno here. My goodness, did we need the rain. So that's nice. Farmers are jumping for joy. I'm jumping for joy. I don't jump too high nowadays, but I do the best I can. But, we're going to get into the hardcore stuff. It looks like some possible good news coming out of the Ukraine-Russia war in terms of some negotiations, some diplomacy, of which I've been pushing here on this show, much to the chagrin of the more, the more enthused hawks out there that believe that we should be calling for Putin's assassination. We should be no-fly zone and do everything we can. Be dang World War III. Let's just give this evil dude what he deserves. And I tell you, emotion and bad choices of words have started wars, bad wars, world wars. And hopefully cooler heads will prevail. I don't really care. Let me put it away that people can understand. I really don't give a rat's behind what I've been called in terms of a pacifist, some soft on Putin's talking point dude out of Fresno. Just because I take the position that you need to get inside this guy's head and inside this guy's world in order to be able to converse with him. And over 50% of the Russian population, whether you want to believe it or not, that support this war. Yeah, it's a war. They've been propagandized, no doubt about it, but it is what it is. We can curse the darkness or turn on the light and deal with this. Respect that. There's a lot of people, believe it or not, that think we in the West, and the United States in particular, have got it all wrong. That they think we're a decadent society, a godless society, a society that wants to dominate, that takes out world leaders whenever we want to. And if you look at our record, we have, the truth will set you free, but first it'll make you miserable. In some cases, we've earned that. Does that make me a bad American? So it just goes back and forth. I talked about my patriotism. I love this country. God, faith, family, and freedom, I think, are 3 principles worth dying for. And I love this country. I love the principles we were founded on. That's why I defend them so much. One of the reasons why I'm doing this show 1 hour a day, to put my voice, whatever it's worth out there, which some people think is not very much. That's okay. But I was offered this opportunity. Here I am. I feel good about doing it. And I feel good about pursuing peace instead of just beating the drums of war. I don't get it. Maybe, and we're going to talk later on, maybe the generations that's never gone through a war, never seen the carnage of war, they're seeing it now for the first time. And they don't really realize that, what the long-term effects can be, that wars can drag on for years, that the destruction that comes about can last and traumatize generations to come. That is the case in Russia. Just do a little bit of homework. Say, how can those people follow this Putin and, saying that the United States wants to see Russia destroyed, They want to see, they want to dominate us, they want to impose their values on us. And you have to, I'm not saying agree, but understand that's what's going on. Or we have no chance for a negotiated solution. You know, the person who understands that, excuse me, very deeply is Zelensky. You know, the exalted hero that everybody's holding up. I happen to admire the man in this context, willing to die for his country. He says for freedom. Not a perfect man. You know, Ukraine is not a democracy like we know it, but he is certainly not Putin by any stretch of the imagination. And but we have to be grown up about this. We can't, and that's why I'm constantly amazed at what continues to come out of the mouth of Sean Hannity, Lindsey Graham, some influential voices in the media and in politics, and President Joe Biden. For example, I got an email, and I'm going to read it here because I like to get emails. People disagree with me. I want you to let me know. Your voice is welcome on here because I've gone and put my rear end on the line saying if you disagree with me, I'm a big enough person to listen to you, converse with you, and be open to being influenced. And if you can make a case that's based on reality and you can put forth that case in a clear, eloquent enough way where I can get it, and I hear you and I process it, and I come to the conclusion that, you know what, you have a point there. I never thought about it that way. Well, thank you for opening my eyes to consider this. I'm not, trust me, folks, I'm not beyond saying that. That's who I am. It's what I've always been. Yeah, like it's just one of those things about me. I want to know the truth. I want to be on the side of truth. And I know the truth can be very, very difficult to handle. But that's how we become a better people, is to look at the truth, how we really are, not how we wish we were or how we fool ourselves into thinking we are. That's how you grow as a person, is that constant pursuit of the truth. And sometimes we have to peel that onion as an individual, and you peel that onion and go, oh, that's not me. Oh, God, it's me. You peel another layer of that onion. Please don't tell me I'm that kind of a person. I don't do that. Oh, gosh, I do that. It's a difficult process, but once you've been through it, you inevitably become a better, stronger, more beneficial person to the overall good of mankind if you do that, at the risk of being a little grandiose and hyperbolic here. And the truth, that holds true for a nation, for a community. We can lose our identity. We can lose our values. We got to constantly be examining it. And we have to put, as they say, you don't have to walk a mile in somebody's shoes, but be willing to walk a few hundred yards in somebody else's shoes. Because usually that's all it takes. Sometimes it's just a few feet in somebody else's shoes. And you go, you know what? I may not agree with it, but I get you now. I understand now. This Will Smith, as innocuous thing as it is, people are saying, look, I don't agree with what he did. I don't condone going up and violently attack somebody, but when somebody insults your wife, I kind of understand that. I get that. So you have people that don't believe in violence and taking that type of action that Will Smith did into any account, but listen to the rest of the story, says, okay, I can understand. We can look at each other as human beings. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. How do we make sure that this doesn't happen again? And maybe Chris Rock and Will Smith will be able to work that out. But you say, what does that little innocuous incident have to do with Ukraine war and Russia? Because you're dealing with human beings. If you call somebody a mass murderer, a war criminal, that she needs to be removed from office, you poke a bear, you insult them so much in a corner, you don't know what they might be doing. If you're looking for a peaceful solution, that's something you probably you get no value out of it. Who can out demonize whose leader the most? And it's not just me saying that. World leaders are saying, hold on, President Biden. That's not helpful in any way to say, for God's sake, this man needs to be, this man should not be in office. I'll get the correct quote. For God's sake, this man should not be in office anymore. Something to that effect. I'll get the exact quote. But I was called to task here by an email. Let me get back to the email and I'm just going to use his first name because I don't want to, I don't have his permission to use his full name. But James, not James Marbles. I hope you're doing good, James. He's a loyal listener from way back. He's from James, and he calls it the title misquote. He says you're misquoting Biden's from yesterday's show. Excuse me. He didn't say removed from office. He has a good reason for what he actually said, and it just might work if the right-wing Trump media don't screw it up. And we already know Putin has used chemical weapons before and blamed it on someone else. Russia has used chemical weapons during past conflicts, notably in Chechnya and Syria, in violation of international law. Well, James, I appreciate you, number one, for sending very much. And I want to treat this this correction that you're giving me, and or criticism, maybe a little bit of both there, with what I promised y'all I would, and that is with a thoughtful response to it, and not dismissing it because of my prior beliefs or what I believe actually right now, because that's what you call grown-up discussion. People talk about, let's have these difficult discussions on race, difficult discussion on gender, difficult discussions on the border, but really all it means is, well, let's sit down. I'm going to give you my opinion. If you don't agree with it, you can go pound sand. I'm going to go out and tweet what a closed-minded idiot that you are. That's really what they mean. Both sides, Republican and Democrat, mean when they say have a difficult discussion. As soon as it veers from their beliefs, their hardcore beliefs that they're not going to move from, then the difficult discussion is over with. Let's just go on CNN, or I'm going to go on Fox News, lob bombs at each other, press send on the tweet, and just, again, start calling you a bunch of names. That's the world we're living in. That's not the world of this show. Okay? That's not what we're about. I want to hear the views, an eclectic, a different point of view that happens to be of mine. That's okay. So let me respond to James, though. Here's my problem with the president's statement. He said, for God's sake, this man cannot stay in office. I think was the exact quote I'm making. Here's the problem. This statement is used a lot, this exclamation, a lot in this world. It's become part of everyday vernacular. And that quote is something is said, and the response is, what does that mean? What in the world does that mean? And when you're the leader of the free world, in fact, if you're a leader, especially of a superpower, a nuclear power, in today's climate, with tensions being what they are now, which were tense before, but are now tension on steroids with the Ukraine-Russia situation, you have to know, especially in the position of President of the United States, that people around the world are hanging on your every word, okay? You have to understand that. And when you say something, you have to have a little process where it comes into your brain or into your heart. You have to ruminate on it, picture and think about having already said it, don't say it yet, and how you feel, excuse me, it's going to be received, not only here in America by your particular political party, your supporters who may know what you're talking about if you're not specific, but the rest of the world won't. And you have to ask yourself, is it wise for me to say this like this? That's why they have prepared statements, prepared speeches written down. The smart leaders, the ones that understand the power of the spoken word, and Larry Powell said it the best, a word once spoken can be forgiven but not easily forgotten, if ever. And again, you say, well, words are words. No, we can go and on one of our shows, we'll talk about things, wars, conflicts, just horrible things that were started over a misrepresenting of words, or words that were not wisely spoken. And as president, and this goes for, again, every head of state, but in particular the United States of America, because everybody's still hanging on the words and the actions of this country. You have to be precise. You have to be almost surgical in what you say. If you can't do that, then you don't say anything at all. Yeah, I know it's a little aggravating to have, asked a question and or say something in this regard, and you're called upon to clarify it, and you say, well, that's all I have to say about this right now, or I can't comment on this. It can be aggravating, but it's worse to say nothing at all than to say something that either is misleading or can be taken in multiple ways in multiple countries. And James, I would say to you, it's not me that you say took Biden's words the wrong way. I took it as saying, hey, by any means necessary, the old Malcolm X thing, Putin's got to go. Whether it's by a Ukrainian missile, internally in Russia, you people take care of it. For God's sake, this man can't be in office anymore. It sounded like a clarion call to anyone and everyone to take the guy out. That's how I received it. You received it differently. In your email, you don't tell me exactly what he meant. You said it was the Trump media. I'm not Trump media. I go on. I have a lot of problems with the way Trump conducted himself. I said so on the show. I said so privately, publicly. There were some of his policies that I agree with, but I had to separate personality from policies. Because the personalities, out there, the actual personality itself, the words you say are dangerous, but personality is not going to hurt you. Policies will. The policies that fuel inflation, we're dealing with that right now. That hurts badly. So it's not, when I criticized him yesterday about saying that, on the pretense that of the message it sent and how some people are processing it, and again how I took it, I wasn't alone. So it wasn't, you kind of laid this at the doorstep of the Trump media, when if you followed this, James, because I did, like Larry Elder, I watch MSNBC, CNN, some of the others, so you don't have to. But reporters, very respected and reputable reporters, not just from Fox News, not just from Newsmax, but from CNN, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, public radio, all expressed concern about what he said and the message it could send to Putin, and basically a gift to Putin, because it validates his premise and what he's been propagandizing over in Russia for decades, that America is leading the gang, the thugs, to take Russia down, kill the leader, Putin, and destroy your way of life and occupy your country. It plays into that. And here's the danger. Something happens to Putin now, whether the United States had anything to do with it at all, probably won't. Something happens to him now. The translation is going to be, Joe Biden was the mafia boss who sent out Luca Brasi and the hit squad to take him out. That's how many in Europe, Eastern Europe, are going to process it. That's why you have everyone from Erdogan over there in Turkey, somewhat of a dictator in his own right, to Macron of France, to Olaf Scholz in Germany, Boris Johnson. They're all saying, that's not a wise statement. And you have Jake Sullivan, the spokesman for the White House, walking that back, saying that's not what he meant. Then you have Biden being interviewed right after that saying, I'm not walking anything back. So, again, James, I'm not being defensive about your please keep in contact, because I hope you're watching today or listening today. That was my biggest concern. On something so important, you can't leave a statement out there that could be interpreted in a fashion that would even remotely suggest that you're calling for the assassination of a head of state. That's unprecedented. America's never done that. We didn't do it when Khrushchev got his shoe out, pounded it on the podium at the UN, and said, "We will bury you." Kennedy didn't come out and said, "You need to take Khrushchev out." When Castro was lining people up and shooting them, yet he didn't say Castro needs to be taken out because it would play into Castro's hands, and you just don't do that. It's just something, that's not done, and you say, well, he deserves it. Well, shoot, yes, but you got to be smart. As a leader, you have to be smart. You have to think about the devastation that's going on now, how you end this war as quickly as possible, because it's going to destroy the economy of the world. One thing, but the devastation, the personal humanitarian disaster is the big thing that has to stop. And there's some light out of the tunnel, it appears. And you don't want to close that light by taking a guy who has an ego, the size of Alaska, if not the entire Soviet Union, Putin, at nearly 70 years old, that wants to leave a legacy going, hey, I'm not going to be pushed around back here. I was on my way out here, but I'm going to hang around for another year and keep bombing to show these people, to show Biden. It's hard to believe that it could be as simple and infantile as that, as egos. But it's true. I served in government for 8 years. I went to Washington, D.C. a lot. I went to Sacramento. I saw on full display the abundance of egos and decisions, big decisions, not quite like war here, but made policies on getting back at somebody because somebody said something that I didn't like. It was shocking to me. Because I said, no, I'm not seeing this. I'm peeling the onion back to the federal government, peeling the onion, going, no. And in this case, you have to understand who you're dealing with, be able to swallow that ego, and pursue peace. Why? Because all of those little kids that are being bombed are depending on us, number one, the leader, to have a cool head, do the right thing, swallow the ego, get in there, and knock out a peace agreement. And this is basically what Zelensky's saying. And you say, well, let's let Zelensky lead the way. That's what all these politicians are saying. Well, that's exactly what he's saying. He didn't like that comment. He knows who he's dealing with. Okay, we went a little longer on this break. When one of these radio folks, you can't see this, but I'm holding up a little container here. I'm not going to tell you the contents because I want it to be a surprise, but it's going to be evidence on a subject that I brought up on one of my previous shows. And I think it's going to prove my point, and it's also going to prove at what silly links I'll go to sometime to prove a point. We may get to it today, may not, but just wanted to put a little suspense in the show. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, yes, I'm going to make a comment on the Will Smith sucker punch of Chris Rock. It's still all over the news there, and seems to be the talk of the country. And I also want to talk about Bill Kristol, Rick Wilson, and again, these folks that are calling Biden's comments about removing Putin akin to Reagan's Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. There could be nothing. Don't insult that comment from Ronald Reagan, what it meant to this country and the world by equating Mr. Biden's statement with that unbelievably powerful statement there at the Berlin Wall. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat. We'll be right back. James, I hope you're still with us. Hope you're watching, but I really appreciate your email. And hopefully we can demonstrate that you can have different views, disagree without being rude and resorting to, name calling, stuff like that. Gosh dang, I hate that. There's so much of it. I guess social media just changed everything. How many times, think about it, folks, think about it. How many times in our life prior to Twitter, speaking of folks my age and younger, even in the millennials, some of them grew up without this Twitter domination as the way to communicate. That you've thought about saying something to somebody, that you have a gripe with or you don't like. And we used to say, boy, I'd love to give them a piece of my mind. And, boy, I'd like to put that person in their place. And the only way you had to do was either go to their house or pick up the phone, do the old dial thing. And by the time you did both of those things or one of those things, you kind of thought about it. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to send that because it's not going to help things. It's just going to make things worse. I'm going to figure out I'm going to cool down. Then I'll go to their house. I'm going to cool down and then give them a call. Okay? I know I did that a lot. And if I would have had at that time, or you would have had the ability right then to just, boom, oh, that dirty, rotten, you see Trump or you see Biden and they're saying something you don't like, or, you know, some pro-life person says some stuff, or pro-choice person says, hey, you know, these pro-life people, these pro-choice, take that. Take that. And it goes all over the world. And you look at it, and then the person sees that tweet. Oh, yeah, there it goes again. And then it goes what they call viral. A pretty good name for it. It's a virus, viral. It just goes. It just spreads. And so many times what spread is hate.
1 minute.
Revenge. We got to bring back cooler heads, adult conversation, especially with our leaders. I guess that's okay. Just one old man's thoughts. No more, no less.
I remember my first love affair. Somehow or another, the whole darn thing went wrong.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
And welcome back to Alan Autry No Retreat. I hope y'all are still with us on radio and social media. Excuse me. I'm going to get to these comments by Bill Crystal, Rick Wilson, two former Republicans that have gone someplace. You see them a lot on CNN, which is fine. That's what they want to do. The transformation has been very interesting to watch. Those two people. But first, I've been sitting on this for a while because during the break, radio folks, I was talking to social media folks about how easy it is to just respond now when you get ticked off. Back in the day, you know, if you're mad at somebody, had a score to settle or whatever, somebody said something, done something you didn't like, boy, so I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. I'm going to put them in their place. And you just had that rotary phone. You had to either go to their house or you had the rotary phone, and gave you some time to think about it. And many times you cooled down after a while and said, you know, let me handle this a different way. I'm going to approach it a little different. But with Twitter, you can have one of those thoughts, get ticked off, boom, a little tweet, bang. And in, you know, less than 10 seconds, the way these youngsters are go at it, you have your thought at that moment out all over the world. And, you know, then that gets retweeted and everything goes wild, it goes viral. Many times what goes viral is not very positive, as we've seen with this Will Smith, Chris Rock thing. But so I wanted to think about this because before I talked about it, because I respect Mitt Romney. I got to meet Mitt Romney on several occasions when he was running for mayor. Charming man, him and his wife. I met him through Mayor Reardon from L.A. Reardon and Mitt Romney are good friends. Went to a couple of his fundraisers. Got to, I mean, not like you know everything about him, but more than the average meet and greet relationship that most people have. And good guy, support him for president. But lately, I've seen him just change and do stuff, and I'm thinking that is not the Mitt Romney that I know. and not his stance against Trump. I think him supporting the impeachment, which is not going to help the country, wasn't going to work. I disagreed with him on that. But I could still, okay, I understand. You don't like him. You got a little personal thing against him as well, and Trump against you. So that's understandable. But this latest tweet towards Tulsi Gabbard, former congresswoman from Hawaii, who I think is one of the most level-headed leaders, former leaders out there that I've seen or heard. She's a Democrat, but she's common sense. She's in the military, lieutenant colonel in the military. I believe she served over in Iraq. And she pretty much espouses on the issue of Ukraine and Russia war what I believe you should have as you arm the Ukrainians, as you give Zelensky what he wants for war with passion and commitment. You need to have that same passion and commitment towards a negotiated solution. Why? Because people die when wars continue to wage. Just more people die. We see more heartbreaking images of old people dying, young people, kids dying. I mean, it's just heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching. And I'm not saying appeasement. I'm just sick and tired when I talk like this. People say you're trying to appease Putin. If you'll listen to what I say in its totality and not take a selective soundbite, then put your hands over your ears, and that's all you hear, you'll know I'm doing the farthest thing from appeasing Putin. I'll go as far as to say this. There might be a time where you have to go to World War III, that you have to risk a nuclear exchange. But I don't want to get there early when it can be avoided. That should be the last resort, because you know why? It's probably going to be the last resort for the planet. We're done if you get there. I mean, well done. I mean, like burnt up. That this planet will never recover from. Do you folks that disagree with me taking this position and committed to peace on this thing? And do you understand what I'm saying? Do you get it? And I don't mean to talk down to people. I don't think people get nuclear weapons. I think a lot of folks just don't understand it because we haven't seen one go off. The thing in Hiroshima, you see it. I mean, people talk about that. These climate change people that are, and I want to get to the Romney thing here in just a second with Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, you talk about commitment to climate change being the existential threat to our species, meaning the word existential mean a threat to our existence. That's what the term means. Is something, yes, we have to look at it. We have to address it. But you're talking about the horrific consequences of not addressing, really not happening for 75, 100 years, where you really see. Now, we need to get on it, you bet. But you're facing a situation, a real existential threat that could create a nuclear winter, destroy the planet completely, our existence, if you will, completely, and could be done today in 5 minutes or less. How long does it take you to push a button? How long does it take to get on the phone, dial it, and say, launch them? Well, Alan, that never happened. Well, yeah, right. Never happened until it happens. It's unthinkable until it happens. And then you're left looking at each other saying, my God, what have we done? And generations looking back at us saying, why did you do this? Why did you get so worked up and talk this war and beat the drums of war till this happened? That a crazy man launched, and then we launch back, and another one launches. This, I would like to see the folks that are committed to climate change, because they're passionate people, well-funded. George Soros, your group, all that. Really, why don't you take that passion, that zeal, that funding, and turn it towards nuclear disarmament, or disarming to a point where if one went off and the full thing was exchanged, that would have a chance to have a planet left. How about looking at that? You realize the Soviet Union has over 6,000 nuclear weapons, enough, just them, enough to destroy the entire world and make it useless, a smoldering heap, 1,000 times over. Then there's ours, then there's China's, there's India's, there's Pakistan's. There's 9 countries that have them, folks. But by all means, let's just stoke a superpower whose You know, we don't know exactly where his head's at. Let's just see how far we can push him and just see if he pushes the button when there's another way out. You call that appeasement? If there's another way out besides nuclear war, and I'm committed to searching for that reason, and that doesn't mean sacrificing innocent lives or appeasement or making a dictator more strong, it doesn't mean that. There's other ways out. There's ways if you sit down and talk, you stop calling people devils, you get Zelensky and his group, and you get Putin, and let their envoys get together, and you have the United States pursuing it, saying, let's give peace a chance. Remember that from the 60s? Not a bad slogan, Jose. Give peace a chance. And I'll tell you where I was on the other side. I was so close-minded about Vietnam War. I was for it to begin with, got adamantly against it. Because we talked. We talked about that war in this country. And we finally came to the same conclusion. It was a war we couldn't win, so we got out. We could have won it, but politicians chose not to. So it got so far deep in there, you had to get out. Okay. I deviated for a reason. I want to take this to Mitt Romney again and his comment about Tulsi Gabbard, who basically is saying everything that I just said. People say, well, Alan, you're just taking Tucker Carlson's talking point, Tulsi Gabbard and all that. I got news for you, folks. Our show comes on before them. Our show, come on. Autry's Army gets a chance to discuss this thing before them. If they happen to align with something we talked about on this show, I don't know how they got it. Maybe they just got a little common sense, too. You ever thought about that? Maybe we're not stealing. I'm not running over here watching who they're talking about tonight so I can seem prescient, whatever the term is, that I'm going to be the one and go, hey, yeah, see the copy of me. It's just I just don't do that. This is our show. Yes, I watch other shows. It's good to hear other people's opinions. I'm not afraid of them, of other people's opinions. I'm not going to sit down with a pro-choice individual, afraid to sit down with them, that, me being pro-life, that after my conversations, I'm going to come out supporting abortion on demand. I'm more secure in my beliefs. I want to discuss and hear their point of view, because maybe we can find that we will not agree on abortion, but man, we can agree we need to go and help the homeless in an initiative. Or we might agree that CRT is not good to teach kids that they're born racist. Wow, we didn't know that. It's like Reagan said. If you compromise, if you find 50% that you agree with, are you 50% friends or 50% enemies? Okay, it seems like I'm tangenting, but it's not. It's all connected in my own mind with and illustrated the good and the bad with Mitt Romney and Tulsi Gabbard. I've listened to pretty much what everything Tulsi said. She's never said to appease Putin. She's never said one time not to give resources to Ukraine. Not once. Excuse me. Sorry, folks. She has expressed a concern about prolonging a war that you clearly are not going to win militarily. And I align with her. To think that Ukraine is going to beat Russia all out. Russia pulls everything they have out. Ukraine pulls everything they have out. It's a no contest. It's David and Goliath, and David doesn't have the sling. Okay? He doesn't have the rocks. It's just they overwhelm him with size and resources, okay? And by the way, all the Western European help that's supposed to be coming to Ukraine, it's not coming fast enough. And in some instances, it's not coming at all, including the resources that Biden promised. But Germany's not getting it fast enough. France isn't. Italy, not happening. And much to Zelensky's chagrin and anger, and I understand. But Tulsi Gabbard simply said, look, while you're doing this, please give the same effort to peaceful negotiations, because you start giving people false hope that they're going to win. And again, I'm going to use a sports analogy. I tend to do that now and then on this. And again, I'm not done with the Romney Gabbard deal and what Romney said, which I was taken back. I was aghast. I couldn't believe what I saw on the tweet. But here's how I look at the situation. I don't know if there's any boxing fans out there listening or viewing, but I'm a big boxing fan. And recently, over the last 3 years, there's been this trilogy fight between Deontay Wilder, a young fighter, great fighter, and a big fighter, 6'7" fighter, Tyson Fury. They fought to a draw the first time. Everybody wanted a rematch. The second time, Tyson Fury just laid a horrible beating on Deontay Wilder. And it was obvious they shouldn't fight again because it would be the same outcome. But in the sports world, when it's not settled, a draw the first time, Fury, you won that time. Deontay Wilder was beloved. People loved him. They wanted a third one. I'm shaking my head right then going, no, don't do this. Well, they made the match. So in the midst of their third fight, Deontay fought, and I'm making a metaphor between this fight and what's happening in the Ukraine with Russia. They're fighting. Tyson's 6'6", 6'7". Deontay's 6'4", big, but not 6'7", okay? The fight starts, Deontay Wilder, I think in the third round, knocks Fury down. Everybody jumps up. Oh, he's going to win. And I'm making metaphorically to Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine has some victories. They've been able to push Russia back a little bit. Everybody's up going, hey, they can win. They can win with what they have. Well, Tyson Fury got up, just like Russia, got up and continued to fight. Well, about the seventh round, Deontay Wilder would have a moment where he would land a punch. But clearly, Tyson Fury was taking over. He was bigger, stronger, just had more weapons, if you will, than Deontay Wilder. And at rounds 9, it got ugly. Tyson Fury was just beating him to a pulp, to a point where you started worrying about Deontay Wilder's, not only his fighting future, but his life. Now, a little side note here. In the fight previous, where Tyson won, Wilder's corner threw in the towel. Okay, because his trainer, Mark Breland, loved Deontay Wilder. They were like brothers. He saw he was not going to win and saw the damage that he was taking, that he loved him enough to throw in the towel. Well, Deontay Wilder didn't like that. He said, take me out on my shield. He fired his best friend, Mark Breland, in that second fight. So here in this third fight I'm describing, Breland isn't there. He brought in people that were going to tell him, you're going to still win this. We're not throwing in the towel. I don't care how bad you're hurt. I don't care if you never fight again. We got your back, Deontay. Don't worry about us. No matter where you are in this fight, how bad it is, we're going to let it go. We got you because we believe in you. Well, rounds 10, 11, 12 were as ugly, brutal of a fight as I've ever seen. Tyson Fury at one time, as he's beating the living daylights out of this young man, the corner won't call it, throw in the towel. I'm watching this on the internet. There's these young go-getter, testosterone-driven announcers who are really, they're macho, man. They're going to take you out on the shield. Even they are wincing and saying to the referee, you need to stop this. Why the referee didn't stop it, we don't know. The beating kept going on and on. And at the end of the fight, Deontay Wilder was an absolute mess, probably cognitively injured, perhaps for the rest of his life, I think, taking that type of beating. Towel didn't come in. So I look at this situation where people are telling the Ukraine, Lindsey Graham, yeah, keep fighting like you're doing. And you're not sending any resources in. They're running out of resources. Meanwhile, the little towns, Mariupol is being leveled, town by town, missile by missile, hypersonic missile by hypersonic missile is coming. And if you think that Putin is going to stop punching, I don't think you're really on the planet. You don't know Putin's history. He's going to keep punching. Now, I'm not saying you throw in the towel and surrender. You have another pathway. You live to fight another day. You say, okay, call it off. Let's negotiate. And you live to fight another day. Because he has said, let's call him on his bluff. Halt the hostilities. He said, let's go and talk. See where that leads us. So that's my little metaphor in my head that I see going on. Excuse me. I know I'm going to get a lot of, you want Ukraine to throw in the towel and give up to Putin. Oh, gosh darn. Please, people. Please. That's not what I'm saying. Give up without conditions. Just pursue peace. Know that it's the way it's going now. They cannot win that war. We're not going to put a no-fly zone. We're not going to put boots on the ground. They can't win without NATO reinforcements. Are we going to do that? No. Are we going to do a no-fly zone? No. So how do they win the war? Dagnabbit, quit using these people. Crying as you see up on the thing with all the people, and you're up there, go, get them. Zelensky's going, where's my stuff? Where's my plane? Where's my MiGs? Keep fighting, because you're inspiring the world. You're inspiring us. You're going to be on the cover of Time magazine. Might be posthumously, but keep fighting, buddy, because you're inspiring America and you're inspiring the world. No, I'm not going to blow smoke at Zelensky, because we're not delivering what we said. We're not going to do the thing that could help win the war. I'm not saying, nor should we be the world's policeman. The situation is what it is. The way it's being fought right now, Ukraine cannot win. So why do you want to see people die? I saw that in Vietnam. I had 2 friends die in Vietnam on a war that the politicians said 3 years before they ended it that it could not be won, yet kept sending our boys there and women there, and they kept dying. I ain't going to remain silent on this. It's too personal to me. I see those Ukrainian people there. I see my friend Gary Dent, Joe Avila. You people out there know who lost people in Vietnam. It's the exact same thing. Same smoke blowing up Zelensky's rear as they blew up our soldiers' rear, that they were going to be committed to winning this thing. Same thing. And you want to send me an email or come on the show and tell me where I'm off? Gladly. Come on. Okay. Guess you know where I stand on that. All right. Mitt Romney's comment that made me just kind of do a double take. But it's on Twitter. It's not something that he uttered. He decided to put it out there forever. And he said, Tulsi Gabbard's comments. You can look this up. Mitt Romney tweet about Tulsi Gabbard. Said her words of support, and I'm paraphrasing just a little bit, for Vladimir Putin are treasonous. Treasonous. Now, I defy, that's something that a far-left, Saul Alinsky trained, woke, far-left liberal, I don't want to insult the liberals by saying that's this woke, far-left insanity would say about Tulsi Gabbard and what she said. Not Mitt Romney. Not Mitt. That it's treasonous to say we should pursue peace with the same zealous compassion and zeal as we do war. And I finally send me a tweet where Tulsi Gabbard said, give up. Putin's got, let's support Putin, or let's give up on freedom and democracy in the Ukraine. She's one who will also say that freedom and democracy in Ukraine did not reign during the Zelensky administration. I mean, certainly not Russia. They certainly didn't deserve to be invaded. I'm not saying that at all. But she has the intellectual honesty to look at things as they are and say, what do we do with what we have now in reality? How things really are, to stop the killing and get this war settled, get it done in peace, rather than live in the world we would like it to be. Create our own reality there that makes it more easy for us to accept. That it fits our narrative, or the reality has to fit our narrative, not the reality, us fit the narrative of the reality of the situation. That's where she's coming from. And again, if she departs from that at some time, I'll be the first one to criticize her. If she goes into the world of appeasement and does a Neville Chamberlain type thing, I'll be the first one to call her out. But that's not what she did. And I'm really, really astonished that Mitt Romney, although Mitt and I don't agree on everything, there's many things we do agree upon, fiscal responsibility being one of them. We're $25 trillion in debt here. This thing's getting, $45 trillion. It's getting crazy now. We're just a debt country. And we agree that has to be addressed. There's several other things. But I think Mitt is so far off on this and has yet to apologize to Tulsi Gabbard. And I just tell you, I just pray again. My hope is for the cooler heads of to prevail, the realists, the grown-ups come into play. And I don't believe Zelensky and Putin should meet face-to-face right now. They should have their envoys meet, set the stage for it, because that's how these things get resolved. Because you got two egos, two wounded people. And as Henry Kissinger said, you got to be very cautious. It sounds good. Let's get Zelensky and Putin in the same room and see what happens. Well, Kissinger's got his point. He's seen a lot of this. He said it's better to get high-level negotiators, very respected, grown-up people on both sides. And I agree with Henry Kissinger. The guy had did more in his time to diffuse tensions around the world than pretty much any government employee that in my lifetime. You know, he gets made fun of, Kissinger, for the way he talks, but he was committed to diplomacy. He was a great negotiator, and he's a good person to study. So, take a deep breath. Okay, how much time we got, Jose? 2 minutes and 29 seconds. Okay, I'm going to end on this. Probably wondering what I got in there. It's a little tin can. Okay, remember when I said something's going on with the chickens? Because you go in the grocery store and you see large eggs. Large eggs. Hard to get it. Take it home. I'm not one that looks before I take it home. I should, but I don't. You get home with this carton of large eggs, and this is what you get nowadays. Got this in my little thing here. I took a picture of it, was going to put it on the screen, but I said, no, I'm going to take this because this here, I'm going to hold this up here. This egg, I'm looking at the monitor right now. I'm trying to get you some kind of perspective on this thing. That's like about less than 2 inches is a large egg nowadays. What's going on with the chickens in this country? A large egg. I mean, I was raised out on the farm, man. It was 3-4 times this. I swear to you, if this is a large egg, and okay, I'll put my little pinky there, little pinky. Oh gosh, I had one. I hope you can see the perspective. That ain't a big egg. All right, folks on radio, you can't see it. It's tiny. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what's a small egg? I mean, it would be a pigeon egg. And I'm concerned that something's going on with these chickens, because they, they say, they're natural. They're open range. I love that. Naturally fed, no steroids. Love that. Well, back in the day on the farm, we didn't have steroids. They were naturally raised. And, man, I'd go in the hen house and gather the chickens. They're big old suckers, man. Those big old natural. And I've just seen them over the years to where you got these little eggs. And this is a mystery, folks. But I'm going to stay on. I want to find out what's going on. Maybe chickens are concerned that, we need to lower our standards. That maybe they've turned communist. I don't know. We're going to stay on it. 5 of those wouldn't even make a decent Denny's omelet, senior size. All right, enough of that. God bless. Love you, folks. Thanks for tuning in. And the good Lord willing, creek don't rise. We're going to be able to do it again tomorrow. Bye-bye. Love y'all.
Keep smiling.